Okay, let's dive right in. Today we're looking at a pretty profound text called The Legacy Document, a unified field theory of thievery. The authors, Robert E. Haddon Jr., Free Mahalkita, and Manis, lay out this incredibly detailed and radical account of history, science, and even biology, all from a perspective you have almost certainly never encountered before. It is a dense, challenging piece of work, so our job here is to really unpack its core arguments, just as the authors themselves present them.
And right from the jump, the document opens with this powerful African proverb. Honestly, it perfectly sets the stage for the entire thing. The authors are basically saying, we are the lion, and we have learned to write. This whole document is their attempt to finally tell the story from the lion's point of view, to challenge the narrative that they say has glorified the hunter for thousands of years.
Now, this is absolutely crucial to understand their mindset. They explicitly state, this document is not a complaint, it is not a grievance. Instead, they call it a record. You can almost think of it like a detailed ledger, a meticulous accounting of what they argue was taken, how it was taken, who took it, and what was done with it, all stretching back 5,000 years.
So every story has to start somewhere, right? For the legacy document, that beginning, that origin point, is a place they call Kemet. This is the specific place in time they identify as the source before any of the alleged theft even began.
The text asserts that long before the continent was ever called Africa by outsiders, it was known by its own people as Alkebulan, which translates to Mother of Mankind. Now, for the authors, this isn't just a simple name change. They see it as the very first step in a long process of erasing a people's memory and their identity. They're arguing that this was the original trunk of the entire human family tree, not just another branch. So within this land of Alkebulan, you have the civilization of Kemet, what most of us know as ancient Egypt. And according to this document, Kemet was the absolute wellspring of humanity's foundational knowledge. They credit Kemetic scientists with the deep, profound understanding of advanced math, medicine that was centuries ahead of its time. We're talking brain surgery. And astronomical observations so precise they tracked the 26,000-year cycle of the precession of the equinoxes. But here's the key. They highlight the science of chemia, or alchemy, which they define not as turning lead into gold, but as the far more profound science of transforming matter, energy, and even consciousness itself.
Okay, so if all this incredible knowledge existed, you have to ask, how was it lost? How was it co-opted? To explain this, the document introduces this really powerful central metaphor.
You have to get this straight. This serpent is not a literal creature. It's the document's name for a 5,000-year-long pattern of theft. The authors argue that this pattern is incredibly adaptive. When one method of theft no longer works, the serpent doesn't die. It just sheds its skin and takes on a brand new form. It's a metaphor for a continuous, unbroken strategy of taking what isn't yours.
And this is a perfect illustration of what the document calls the serpent's very first skin. After a series of invasions of Kemet by foreign armies, the text argues that the great libraries, like the famous one in Alexandria, were systematically looted and then, eventually, destroyed. The authors have a name for this: epistemicide, literally the murder of a knowledge system. Think about the strategy. You steal the knowledge, you destroy the source so no one knows you stole it, and then generations later you present that stolen knowledge as your own original genius.
And according to the text, this pattern, the serpent, just kept evolving through different skins. After military conquest, they say, came religious fabrication, where Kemetic cosmology was allegedly stolen and repackaged into Abrahamic religions. That was followed by the skin of colonial slavery, which the document recontextualizes in a very, very specific way. And finally, they argue its current skin is something called terminological theft, where original Kemetic science concepts are being rebranded with the modern language of quantum physics, but with one crucial element intentionally left out.
And now we get to that missing element. And this is where the theory presented in the legacy document really pivots and becomes something else entirely. Their entire argument hinges on a radical, fundamental redefinition of a single substance in the human body.
So on one side, you have the conventional science we all learned in school. Melanin is the pigment that gives color to our skin, our hair, our eyes. Simple. But the legacy document, it throws that idea completely out the window. It makes this extraordinary claim that melanin is actually a sophisticated quantum biological system. The authors assert that it functions as a room temperature superconductor, a piezoelectric transducer, and even a holographic interface that's capable of processing energy and information directly from the environment.
And if you accept that redefinition of melanin, it changes how you look at everything that follows. The document reframes the entire transatlantic slave trade and the plantation system. It argues it wasn't just about economic exploitation and free labor. No. It was a deliberate, systematic, biological attack. The authors argue the specific conditions of slavery, malnutrition, chronic stress, dehydration, sun deprivation, were perfectly designed to suppress the quantum capabilities of this melanin system, making an entire population biologically easier to control and dominate.
So, after laying out this vast, sweeping history of what it calls theft and suppression, the document makes a crucial shift. It stops focusing only on recording the past and starts talking about a plan for the future.
And this right here illustrates the end game. The ultimate purpose of the legacy document isn't just to be a historical account of wrongs. It's meant to be a blueprint, a roadmap for what it calls restoration. And this means restoring the true history of Alkebulan and Kemet, restoring the science of melanin to what they claim is its rightful place, and ultimately allowing for the restoration of biological sovereignty, a state where people can understand and activate the full potential of their own biology, free from the systems of suppression the document has described.
So, we've just traced the core arguments of a text that presents itself not as a theory, not as an opinion, but as the record of human history. It challenges the very foundations of what we think we know about science, religion, and our own past. And that leaves us with a really big question to grapple with. What is the potential impact on our identity, on our society, on science itself, of a narrative that doesn't just ask to revise the history books, but demands a complete and total reset of the entire record? That's definitely something to think about.